All right. So, a while back, I talked about two polls I did of taking a Marvel event and making a DC event, and a DC event into a Marvel event, and how it was changed. And the winners of those two polls were Forever Evil, kind of. We'll get into that in a second, and Secret Wars. So a DC Universe version of Secret Wars and a Marvel version of Forever Evil. So this time around, but as I said, Forever Evil tied, and I had to play tiebreaker with another event. So I thought I'd bring in the Marvel Universe version of the thing it tied with, Tower of Babel, obviously the classic Justice League story. So this is going to be like an Avengers version of Tower of Babel. So let's get into it. Anyway, so the story begins with the Avengers. They are coming back from fighting the Wrecking Crew. It's just a typical mission from the Wrecking Crew, and this is I wouldn't say like it's Jed McKay's Avengers. It's more of like kind of a nebulous Avengers team. So they're coming back to Avengers Mansion, and it's just like, damn, that was kind of unorthodox, wasn't it? Like Tony's like bringing that up, like it's a little unorthodox, right? And Caps and Steve's like, what do you mean, Tony? And he's like, well, I mean, like in the sense that like they attack like it's, you ever seen the Wrecking Crew just specifically attack one spot, like the U.S. Embassy in like fucking Germany? And he's like, no. He's like, why is the Wrecking Crew even in Germany to begin with? They usually stay in New York. It's almost as if someone was trying to get the Avengers out of the U.S. And Steve's like, you're right. Why don't you run like a diagnostic real fast, Tony? So Tony basically is using the computers to like go through everything, and as he's like going through everything. That's when like Black Panther walks into the room, and he's like, so what happened? And he's like, so I understand that like Wrecking Crew showed up in Germany. What's that all about? And he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. There was matters in Wakanda. I am King of Wakanda, you know. Tony's like, well, Your Highness, we're kind of running a idea that maybe this was a diversion tactic to get the Avengers out of the country or out of here for a short while. And T'Challa's just like, that's an understandable thought. So what are you thinking? And before Tony can like answer that, that's when like the Avengers get multiple alerts from multiple sites, and it's various specific villains. And Tony and Steve and all the other Avengers members are like, yeah, this feels pretty coordinated, but we'll get to that. But first, we got to stop all these villains, because it's like it's every single villain in their rogues gallery. So, but the thing is like there's like one rogues gallery who's like kind of missing, and it's Black Panthers, and they're like, yeah, there's no villain on your side, T'Challa. Like we're like, that's kind of weird. And he's like, that's because when I deal with my enemies, I deal with them. And they're like, fair enough. So they all head out, and they're like, stay in comms. Like whatever this is going to be coordinated. So we got to be coordinated too. So they all head out. Like they all just spread out. But the trick is, because they're already like onto something, they're like, how about we switch dance partners? And they're like, yeah, like let's do that. Like this is probably they're trying to bait us out, or whoever is behind this is trying to bait us out and make us fight our own enemies for some reason. So let's introduce them to enemies that they haven't seen before. Like let's do the old Acts of Vengeance thing. So they all swap partners. So you have like Hawkeye, who goes head to head with Crimson Dynamo. You have Iron Man, who breaks out a Hulkbuster for Abomination. You have you have Steve, who goes head to head with Egghead, Hank Pym's old enemy. Then you have Hank himself, who goes to battle Baron Mordo with, science in your face. And you have like Doctor Strange, who battles the Unicorn, another Iron Man villain. And you also have Scarlet Witch, who goes head to head with Taskmaster. So it's all like, yeah, we're all like all specific, and like it's all separate villains. But the thing is, these villains were like, yeah, we kind of figured you'd send us, like, yeah, we kind of figured it'd be that specific hero who'd be sent after us. You know, we kind of planned for this. And they're like, what? The Avengers are like, excuse me? Yeah, the guy who rallied us all together, you know, good old Masters of Evil shit, you know, ran enough diagnostics to be like, yeah, we figured this shit out. Like, yeah, the analytics basically said you were going to do this. And they're like, and Tony's just like, fucking algorithms, man. So Tony gets before he can do anything and like let the Avengers know, because he's the first one who gets told this while he's fighting Blonsky. Blonsky hits his entire suit with a virus that basically just shuts his armor off. And not only that, it basically, the virus also travels into his nervous system, like shocks him so bad it disables like his like anytime he tries to think, it just hurts. It's painful. So now he's just trapped in his own armor. You have Steve, who gets hit by a bullet that starts to drain away his super soldier serum. You have like Scarlet Witch, who gets hit with a rune that that basically makes her body a walking storm of chaos magic that uses it again, that turns itself on her. As for others, Hawkeye gets hit with a equilibrium sound gun that messes with his equilibrium, keeping him from firing his arrows. Hank gets basically hit with a different a variant of his Pym particles that more or less keeps shrinking him. That just keeps shrinking him repeatedly until he's like going into the subatomic level, and it's going gradually. You have and it's not just the Avengers. This version of the Avengers, other superheroes start being hit by very specific things, and you have like Carol, who gets her body just overcharged with energy in one attack. Peter gets hit with a weapon that just drives his spider sense to like new levels. Like every second is like an attack on him, so his spider sense is thrown into like a new level of danger. Like every second, his spider sense is going off constantly, and it's like disorienting him. Same thing with Daredevil. Matt gets hit with a thing that accentuates all of his other senses, so he is disabled. The X-Men are also like plagued by this, by weapons of their specific powers. Like Storm is like her whole thing, she gets trapped in a weapon that disables her powers, that basically cut off the barometric pressure of weather, her thing that's tied to her, and she's like, well, this feels familiar. And all this is going on in the Avengers Tower. Black Panther is still there, and he's like watching all this in horror. And Jarvis comes up. He's like, Master T'Challa, what's going on? And he's like, the Avengers are under attack. By who? By me. So T'Challa just immediately puts out an APB for any heroes that haven't been like hit by this yet. But like the Fantastic Four have gone offline. The X-Men are out. Most of the Avengers are out. But thankfully, there are enough heroes that have managed to like survive all this. Like Moon Knight. You have even Deadpool. You have Punisher. You have a few like Machine Man. Even the Hulk is spared from this. Although he was hit by a weapon that like decelerates his gamma radiation, and like Banner can still turn into the Hulk, but it's only like for shorter amount of time. So he's kind of out of commission. But however, that doesn't mean the Red Hulk isn't. So the Red Hulk is there, while Banner is like now reverted back to Hulk, goes back to Banner. So, but T'Challa's like, yeah, I don't need Hulk, I need Banner to help me with this. And Bruce is like, T'Challa, what do you mean? And he's like, I will explain everything. And Ross is like, how about you explain now, T'Challa? Like, Your Highness, how about you explain now? So T'Challa explains to the people the surviving like heroes that haven't been hurt by this, is like, okay, so don't be mad. But I basically ran a lot of simulations during my early years with the Avengers when I went there to spy on them. You know, when I first joined the Avengers, it was to spy on them and make sure they weren't a threat to Wakanda. And they're like, they already like figured it out. Like, oh, T'Challa, you did not. Tell me you didn't. And he's like, yeah. In those simulations, I basically ran so many that I made the realization that the Avengers aren't just a threat to Wakanda. They are a threat to the whole world. And how could they not be? I mean, Hank Pym basically created Ultron. Thor is a god, and his brother has terrorized the world. What's to stop Thor from having a bad day? Do I need to say anything about Bruce? You know, even several of you in this room are dangerous. Looking at you, Mark. How's your god, by the way? Yeah, we're still sore about that thing you pulled of the Age of Khonshu shit. So I basically spent. So T'Challa explains that he like spent years building like countermeasures to stop the Avengers. But it was more like he basically says, like Deadpool brings up, so you built a bunch of things to kill Avengers, and he goes, not at first. I basically made them in case like people got like one of us got mind controlled or something of that nature, just to like shut us down. And Ross goes, no, you didn't. You made these to kill us in case, because you don't deal like that. You know, you're a king. You know, a king deals in absolute results. So you didn't. So don't bullshit us. You didn't make this shit to like, you know, you didn't build this shit to subdue us. You built it to built these things to kill us if we ever became a threat. That right? And Bruce is like, T'Challa, dude, fuck you, man. And T'Challa doesn't answer that. He's too proud to answer Ross. But he's basically like, look, I will face judgment if need be, but right now we need to figure out who's behind this. So but first they have to save the other Avengers. So T'Challa and his new team of new Avengers are brought together, and it's not like they find others like Iron Fist and Luke Cage, even though Cage himself had to deal with Danny basically saved him. Like, Danny saved Luke from T'Challa's countermeasure, which was a bullet that could vibrate through Luke's skin. It basically kind of took the vibration patterns that Quicksilver could do and vibrate it through and phase through Luke's skin and damage his insides. Thankfully, Danny used his healing chi to like destroy the bullet before it ruptured any organs, but Luke's still hurt, and he's like, I'm good. When he finds out like it was T'Challa who made all this, he's like, I'm gonna make it very clear to you right now, if this don't kill us, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I will put you in the ground myself, T'Challa. And he's like, whatever, I don't care, I'm king of Wakanda. So the Avengers are saved, and before anything else is done, Ross is the one that goes, before we go further of figuring out, like, how did this happen, we need, you need to tell everyone what you did. So T'Challa explains, and the Avengers are just, like, shocked. Except Tony, Janet and Wanda are like, you know, I kind of expected something like this, but from Tony. And even Tony goes, are you kidding? Even I expected this from me. I'm surprised I didn't think of this. and then he's like, oh, wait, I know, because I trust my friends. So Steve is like, look, we'll table this discussion for later. We need to figure out who did all this. And T'Challa explains, like, I don't understand how these files got out. Like, because they were encrypted to even my DNA. Like, not even, like, my sister Suri could get into these. And, like, at this point, the X-Men are also saved, and Storm's just like, typical. Can't even trust your own family. So, T'Challa's like, I don't know who could have done this. And that's when a voice comes in and is like, wouldn't you, though? And then it's like, oh, fuck. T'Challa immediately figures it out. The only other person who could have had access to his DNA is White Wolf. Yeah. White Wolf is the big bad of this story, but he didn't do this alone. He actually teamed up with someone else. Remember those algorithms I mentioned earlier? Yeah, well, the algorithms were run by Ultron. Yeah, see, White Wolf went to Ultron because he did have, once he got access to all of those files that T'Challa had, he was like, well, I could bring these guys together, but like, there's too many variables, and the Avengers are too big for even me. So who better to take you out than the person who hates you, who hates the Avengers as much as I hate you? So yeah, it was an alliance between White Wolf and Ultron that in here, instead of like, it's just one person like Ra's al Ghul or like the Legion of Doom. It was basically Ultron brought together a new Masters of Evil, but they were more pawns than anything else. So needless to say, shit's gone up a creek, but Black Panther and the other Avengers are like, look, well, once they get like their shit together and save the other heroes, it is just one massive army who proceeds, because during all this, White Wolf has more or less been trying to take over Wakanda, and in return, Ultron not only gets to destroy the Avengers, or attempt to, he also gets access to all the vibranium in Wakanda, so he can build like an army of vibranium Ultrons. But, long story short, the Avengers come in, manage to, the Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, even like the Eternals show up, and it's just an army of superheroes taking back Wakanda from White Wolf and Ultron. Ultron gets destroyed, but we all know how that song and dance goes, and White Wolf is put in prison in the deepest, darkest parts of Wakanda. But by the end of it, the Avengers are like, there's still one threat remaining, and that's T'Challa. So T'Challa is like brought before the Avengers, and they're all like sitting there, and they're like, what are we gonna do, man? Like, you basically broke our trust from the get-go. Yeah, and the Avengers like have this big debate of, because some of the Avengers are like, you know, even Thor is like, because Thor, I forgot to mention what happened to Thor. Thor was basically hit with ancient Nordic magic that turned him back into Donald Blake. So he was rendered in just knocked out of the thing. But Thor basically points out that Thor and Tony have this thought of, you know, we understand why he did it. You know, I mean, but the thing that bothers us, you didn't trust us enough with this. Obviously, we've done shit that has gone horribly, horribly wrong, or have the potential to do horrible things. So, yeah, it makes sense, but Cap himself is like, no, the core of it, it doesn't matter what the intentions were, Tony. T'Challa betrayed us. Like, that is, at the end of the day, that is what it matters. So the Avengers put it to a vote, and they're like, the only reason we can't lock you up is because you're the king of a sovereign nation. But make no mistake, like, Tony and Steve lay into him the hardest, but Steve especially is like, what you did doesn't matter. You betrayed this team. You betrayed your family. You betrayed everyone on this planet. And again, I would even see to it that maybe you, the person who should be brought before the United Nations, is you, not White Wolf. But considering you're a king and that would be too much litigation, we're going to do the next best thing. You are no longer an Avenger. We've decided you're not an Avenger. You don't deserve to be an Avenger. And you ever step out of Wakanda again, it's on. Like, it was a massive shitstorm. You got this close to letting Ultron and Ultron, and T'Challa doesn't even like flinch. He's like, I did as a king of my nation and as an Avenger would do. And the fact that Ultron was the one who did it, you know, hey, is the guy who built Ultron here? Oh, he is. He's over there. Hi, Hank. It proves my point. Like, it proves my point that we need these countermeasures to stop us. So, yeah. So T'Challa just was like, I'm going to go back to to Wakanda, and if you ever need me, and you will come back. But as they're leaving, Steve goes up to him and is like, you like really hurt me, T'Challa, because even in the early days, I stood up and said that you were, Avengers material. But and in all your talk of, countermeasures and whatnot, what was the countermeasure for you? Did you even like run any simulations in your head about stopping yourself? And he goes, yeah, it was the Avengers. And Steve is like, all right, but here's the thing, like, what how do you stop a guy who has countermeasures for every Avenger out there? And he's like, yeah, separately. I have countermeasures for you separately, but never together. That's how I knew you would beat me, is together. That's why you saw in all these simulations Ultron and, White Wolf had to break you guys up. So that's the simulation I could never break, is you guys as united front against me. So T'Challa leaves, and the Avengers are just kind of shaken up from all of it. So there you go, guys. That is the Marvel version of Tower of Babel. You guys tell me in the comments below, what'd you guys think of it? Comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.